Thanks for joining us for this episode of After Dark. We'll be discussing Ulrich's parents, Jana and Tronte Nielsen, who clearly has the Tronte clearly has a ton of secrets, sneaking out in the middle of the night and showing up with bloody sweaters.
Yeah, there's something really messed up going on there. Particularly the most suspicious part to me was when she first confronts him about this matter, and she's like, I woke up and you weren't there. And he's like, oh, I was in the garden. And then she's like, but I checked outside and the car wasn't there. And he's like, oh, I had to go to the store to get a hose or something like that. It was some bullshit. And for some reason she doesn't push further, probably because she's just so used to this at this point, of him like sneaking out and not having good excuses, that she's just like, oh god, it's happening again.
And plus she's really distracted between not only her grandson missing, but her son 33 years prior, who also went missing, and then seeing this mysterious stranger in the woods who happens to be carrying around like candy wrappers that were discontinued in 1991.
Yeah, so we actually did the research on this, and this was actually an accurate thing in the show. Twix, which it's known as now, it was, what was the name of it before? Raiders. So that was actually the name of Twix before 1991. They rebranded at that time and have been since known as Twix. So,
or that was the German version of it.
Maybe. I don't know if that was the same thing in the U.S., but the point was to show a candy bar that was only available in the 80s, essentially.
Until 1991.
Yeah, well, I guess 90 it could have gotten.
And it was like the freshest, most pristine candy wrapper ever.
It wasn't even dirty. It looked like they just ate it and like threw it out right afterwards. So there was clearly something weird going on there. There's a strange dynamic going on with the parents, right? Her name is, say it again. Jana. She, for some reason, decides to call the emergency line to get a hold of Ulrich. And he comes over and he, like, says to her, like, Mom, you gotta stop doing this. Like, just call me instead of doing this.
He seems to be avoiding his parents for whatever reason. And he makes that strange comment to Charlotte, like, you ever wonder where everything went wrong? And at first it seemed like a dig towards her own life, but I think he was talking about his own parents.
I agree with you. That seemed to be kind of like an undercut to his parents. And it's weird. It's like the mom is trying to give him some sort of hint, but she's not being very direct. I mean, she brings up the candy bar wrapper, and she brings up like this thing that she saw in the woods, kind of almost like encouraging him to go and look, right? But she never says anything direct. But then at the same time, she's like, she's kind of covering up for her husband, who's doing really suspicious things that don't make any sense at all. It's all very unclear, but
they have a very stilted relationship, it seems.
Their relationship is very strained.
They're kind of like just roommates at this point, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really ever see any affection between them. They're not touching each other. They're not like, oh, good morning, sweetie, you know, smooch on the lips, anything like that. The one thing that I will say about Ulrich's mom is that it's clear that she really, really misses Mads, because that one scene where she goes to replace the action figure on the tombstone, that was really sad. It's like she still has not come to terms with the fact that he disappeared. She's still...
He's probably dead.
Yeah, and I mean, you'd have to assume that that grave is probably empty, right? Because he disappeared and they never found the body. So she's going to an empty grave and, like, taking his action figures and, like, putting them on. I mean, that's just, oh, jeez,
I feel like she should use some kind of, like, you know, wax thing to make sure that the figures don't fall off. I feel like it could fall very easily with a little bit of wind.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I feel like she doesn't seem totally there for some reason. I'm not saying she's wrong in her thoughts, but she doesn't seem totally focused and like totally based in reality.
I feel like she's conflicted between helping her son and covering up for her husband. That's kind of the way that I see it. It's like she's not being honest with her son about the fact that, you know, on the same night that this kid disappeared, her husband disappeared from her bed, but then she's also telling her son to go into the forest and find and like look for things. She's like giving him clues. It's almost like she wants to help, but she just doesn't have the gall to like come forth and say exactly what she saw.
She's also very stuck in 1986 too.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, and in terms of her husband, I mean, like, he's doing this suspicious behavior, which seems to me a little bit more like out of the ordinary. I don't know. I feel like there should have been a lot of follow-up questions. She has a couple, but I've been like, wait. Why are you doing this in the middle of the night?
I don't think she wants to know.
I would.
I feel like she doesn't want to know. I feel like if she knows too much, then she's going to have a responsibility to tell Ulrich everything that she finds out. And that's not something that she wants to really have to burden herself with.
Well, whatever the case may be, his parents and their strange vibe have clearly caused a disconnect between themselves and their oldest son. That doesn't seem to have been repaired. Like, I'm guessing this whole fracture began in 86 with Mads' disappearance, and maybe the mom became so focused on her son who wasn't there, she kind of forgot about the one who was, maybe.
Yeah.
Just an assumption, but...
He does, I mean, when Ulrich finally does come over to her house, he looks very... He looks displeased that he's having to be there, right? He's not sitting at the table with her. He's, like, leaned up against the kitchen counter, his arms are crossed. He's kind of, like...
He's very closed off.
Dismissively looking at her like, oh, God, I have to be here again. I mean, he looks really annoyed that he has to even show up in the first place. So there's a definite void in their relationship. It's a messed up family. It's a very messed up family.
It's very dark.
It's very dark. Anything else about Ulrich and his family?
Yeah.
If you guys like our content, please subscribe right up here. Also, go ahead and follow us on Instagram at @RLRichonne. And also, check out the brand new blog, TheLivingRichonne.blog. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, auf Wiedersehen.